California is a land where extremes meet, a territory that houses the lowest point in North America, and just hours away, one of the highest peaks in the contiguous United States. A region where arid deserts can exist a short distance from ancient forests. A land that literally never stops moving. Welcome to a journey through the dramatic geology, fascinating history, and extraordinary biodiversity of the Golden State. To understand California, we first need to comprehend that it wasn't just built. It was assembled, piece by piece, over millions of years. Unlike most American states, California isn't a single block of land. It's a geological collage formed by the collision and fusion of microplates, volcanic islands, and chunks of continent that navigated the ocean before attaching themselves to North America. The protagonist of this geological story is the San Andreas Fault, an 800-mile line that separates the Pacific Plate from the North American Plate. Here, constant movement causes parts of California to slide northward at a rate of approximately 2 inches per year.
What makes Point Reyes fascinating is that this entire peninsula is literally moving relative to the mainland. In geological terms, it belongs to a piece of land that was originally 300 miles south, near present-day Los Angeles.
This tectonic ballet has also produced a chain of volcanoes, from the towering Mount Shasta in the north, with its 14,979-foot height, to the more recent volcanic fields of the Mojave Desert. In many places, California's volcanic history still manifests in hot springs, geysers, and curious rock formations. Our itinerary begins in the far north, where California meets Oregon. Here, the climate is surprisingly humid, creating perfect conditions for some of the most impressive trees on the planet.
These coastal redwoods can exceed 300 feet in height and live more than 2,000 years. To give you an idea, when Rome was being founded, some of these trees were already growing here.
Further east, at McArthur-Burney Falls Memorial State Park, we find one of California's best-kept secrets. These waterfalls pour about 100 million gallons daily, even during dry seasons. The clarity of the water is surprising, with visibility of more than 30 feet. This phenomenon occurs because the water emerges directly from underground aquifers, filtering through layers of volcanic basalt before cascading down the slope. Dominating the horizon of this region is Mount Shasta, a dormant volcano that last erupted in 1786. Its majestic presence, frequently crowned with snow even in summer, harbors several glaciers, including Whitney Glacier. At the foot of Mount Shasta lies Lake Shasta, California's largest reservoir. Created by the construction of Shasta Dam in 1945, this artificial lake stores enough water to cover the state of Connecticut with 6 inches of depth. Moving south, we encounter California's backbone, the Sierra Nevada. This impressive mountain range houses both the highest point in the contiguous United States, Mount Whitney, at 1455 feet, and some of the deepest valleys on the continent. Yosemite National Park is perhaps the most famous postcard of this region. Here, ancient glaciers carved a U-shaped valley, exposing monumental granite formations such as El Capitan and Half Dome. In spring, when mountain snow melts, spectacular waterfalls plunge from vertical cliffs. Yosemite Falls, with its total drop of 2,125 feet, is one of the highest in North America. In Mariposa Grove, another species of giant tree thrives, the giant sequoia. Unlike its coastal cousin, this species has wider trunks, sometimes exceeding 30 feet in diameter. Among them is the grizzly giant, estimated to be about 800 years old.
The The curious thing about these trees is that they depend on fire to reproduce. Heat causes their cones to open and release seeds while clearing the soil so new shoots can grow without competition.
At the border between California and Nevada, we find Lake Tahoe, the largest alpine lake in North America by volume, with a maximum depth of 1,645 feet. Its waters are so clear that, in some spots, you can see 65 feet below the surface. Emerald Bay, with its small Fanette Island in the center, is one of the lake's most photographed scenes. Atop this island are the ruins of a small tea house built by an eccentric millionaire in the early 20th century. West of the Sierra Nevada stretches California's Central Valley, one of the most productive agricultural regions in the world. This 450-mile-long valley produces more than a third of the vegetables consumed in the United States. The transformation of this semi-arid valley into a breadbasket depended on one of the most complex water management systems on the planet, diverting water from the mountains to irrigate millions of acres of fertile land. Further west, nestled among gentle hills, we find Napa Valley, the heart of American viticulture. Here, more than 400 wineries take advantage of the Mediterranean climate to produce some of the most prestigious wines in the world.
The history of wine in Napa begins in the 19th century, but it was after a competition in 1976, when our wines outperformed the French in a blind tasting, that the world began paying attention to what we were doing here.
Heading toward the coast, we arrive at San Francisco Bay, where geology, history, and culture intertwine in a unique way. The bay itself was formed when sea levels rose after the last ice age, flooding a river valley. In 1906, the city was devastated by a 7.9 magnitude earthquake, followed by fires that destroyed 80% of the buildings. The rapid reconstruction demonstrated the resilience that characterizes the Californian spirit. The Golden Gate Bridge, opened in 1937, became the city's unquestionable symbol. Painted in international orange, chosen both for its visibility in fog and its harmony with the natural landscape, the bridge was considered impossible to build due to maritime currents, strong winds, and frequent fog. Other city landmarks include the prison island of Alcatraz, the lively Fisherman's Wharf, and the colorful Victorian houses known as the Painted Ladies, which survived the Great Earthquake. North of the city, Point Reyes National Seashore offers a glimpse of the region's geological activity. Here, the San Andreas Fault emerges to the surface, creating an elongated estuary called Tomales Bay. The historic Point Reyes Lighthouse, built in 1870, is situated at one of the windiest and foggiest points on the west coast. On nearby beaches, elephant seal colonies rest, part of the abundant marine life that thrives in these nutrient-rich waters. Heading south on Highway 1, one of the most spectacular coastal roads in the world, we reach Big Sur, where rugged mountains plunge directly into the Pacific Ocean. Bixby Creek Bridge, built in 1932, is one of the world's highest single-arch concrete bridges, standing 280 feet tall. Its elegant silhouette against the deep blue of the ocean makes it one of the most popular photographic spots on the coast. At Julia Pfeiffer Burns State Park, McWay Falls creates an almost unreal scene, an 80-foot waterfall that empties directly onto an isolated beach. Until the 1980s, the cascade fell directly into the ocean, but a landslide altered the coastline's configuration. In Monterey Bay, we find one of the richest marine ecosystems on the planet. The Monterey Submarine Canyon, deeper than the Grand Canyon, brings cold, nutrient-rich waters close to the shore, feeding a diverse food chain that includes sea otters, sea lions, and various whale species.
The kelp forests we see here are like the rainforests of the oceans. They create habitat for thousands of species and absorb enormous amounts of carbon from the atmosphere.
Moving away from the coast toward the interior, we find the Alabama Hills, a field of rounded rock formations that dramatically contrast with the jagged peaks of the Sierra Nevada in the background.
These formations are so distinctive that they've appeared in more than 400 films and TV series, from classic westerns to modern science fiction movies. The natural Mobius arch is especially popular, as it perfectly frames Mount Whitney.
To the east, in Death Valley, we find one of the most extreme places on the planet. This valley houses the lowest point in North America, Badwater Basin, 282 feet below sea level, and regularly records the highest temperatures on the planet. In 1913, Death Valley recorded 134 degrees Fahrenheit, one of the world's heat records. With less than 2 inches of annual rainfall, intense evaporation leaves behind crystalline salt formations that extend for miles. The alien landscape includes Devil's Golf Course, a field of pointy salt formations, and the Mesquite Flat sand dunes, which can reach heights of 100 feet. Perhaps Death Valley's most intriguing phenomenon is the so-called sailing stones of Racetrack Playa. These rocks, some weighing dozens of pounds, seem to move by themselves across the dry lake bed, leaving trails on the hardened mud surface. The mystery was finally solved in 2014 when scientists documented how thin layers of ice form on rare winter nights, allowing strong winds to push the rocks across the slippery surface. Continuing south, we enter Joshua Tree National Park, a unique meeting point between 2 distinct desert ecosystems, the High Mojave Desert and the Low Colorado Desert. The iconic Joshua trees, which give the park its name, aren't true trees, but rather plants from the agave family that can live hundreds of years and grow up to 40 feet tall. Their stretched branches, according to Mormon settlers who named the plant, resembled the biblical prophet Joshua with arms raised in prayer. Hidden Valley, a valley surrounded by impressive granite formations, was supposedly used by cattle rustlers in the 19th century as a natural hideout. Today, it's a paradise for climbers from around the world. At the Cholla Cactus Garden, the teddy bear cholla creates a golden forest when illuminated by the setting sun. Despite its cuddly appearance, its easily detachable spines earned it the alternative nickname, Jumping Cactus. Further west, in spring, the hills of Antelope Valley transform into a spectacle of color when millions of California poppies bloom simultaneously. As the official state flower since 1903, these orange poppies can cover entire valleys, creating super bloomings after particularly rainy winters. In the heart of the Mojave Desert, the Kelso Dunes are known for a curious phenomenon. When moisture conditions are perfect, friction between sand grains produces a deep, resonant sound, the so-called singing dunes. We finally reach the megalopolis of Los Angeles, the second largest urban area in the United States. Founded in 1781 as a small Spanish settlement, the city experienced explosive growth after joining the United States in 1848. Global culture has been profoundly shaped by this city through its film industry. Hollywood, with its famous Walk of Fame and the iconic hillside sign, symbolizes the dreams of fame and fortune that have attracted millions to California. In Venice Beach, artificial canals built in 1905 attempted to recreate the atmosphere of the Italian city. After decades of decline, they were restored in the 1990s, and today house some of the city's most valuable residences. The historic Santa Monica Pier, built in 1909, houses the world's first solar-powered amusement park. Its illuminated Ferris wheel has become a symbol of California's pioneering attitude toward energy sustainability. Further south, San Diego boasts one of the mildest climates in the United States, with an annual average temperature of 70 degrees Fahrenheit. The city houses the largest concentration of military bases in the country, including the main training facility of the American Navy. Balboa Park, created for the 1915 Panama, California Exposition, is a cultural oasis with 17 museums, several themed gardens, and the world-famous San Diego Zoo. The imposing Coronado Bay Bridge, with its distinctive 8,430-foot curve, wasn't designed that way for aesthetic reasons, but to accommodate structural stresses and allow Navy ships to pass underneath. Human history in California began more than 13,000 years ago, long before the arrival of Europeans. Peoples such as the Tongva, Kumeyaay, Miwok, and Cahuilla developed complex societies adapted to the diverse environments of the territory. Spanish colonization, initiated in 1769, established a chain of 21 missions along what would be called El Camino Real, the Royal Road. These missions, like the historic Mission Santa Barbara founded in 1786, profoundly transformed the region's demographics and ecology. In 1848, the discovery of gold at Sutter's Mill triggered one of the largest migrations in American history. In just 4 years, California's population jumped from 15,000 to 380,000 people. Cities like Bodie, which once had 10,000 inhabitants during its peak, were quickly abandoned when the gold ran out. Today, about 100 buildings remain in arrested decay, offering a frozen glimpse of life during the gold rush. Modern California is one of the most diverse places on the planet. More than 200 languages are spoken in Los Angeles, and the state has the largest population of Mexican, Chinese, Filipino, Vietnamese, and Salvadoran origin outside their countries of origin. Since the 1970s, Silicon Valley has transformed into the global epicenter of technological innovation. Companies that started in California garages are now among the most valuable in the world. California is a land of paradoxes. Innovative yet traditionalist, natural yet urbanized, extremely wealthy yet with profound inequalities. It's a state that continues to exert a magnetic power over the human imagination. Perhaps California's true charm lies precisely in its contrasts. As a microcosm of the American experience, it represents both reality and promise, a land where dramatic geology shapes not only the landscape but also the character of its inhabitants. If the American dream has an address, that address is certainly in California, with an ocean view facing the future, and with deep roots in a geological history that continues to be written with every tremor, every landslide, every imperceptible movement beneath our feet.